Joe Musso, pleased to be in studio alongside my guys, Jonathan Jones, Bryant McFadden, Emery Hunt, in to weigh in on it all. And I want to start there with the sack issues out in front of Cam Ward. It's a tale as old as time. You draft a quarterback first overall and put him behind an offensive line not prepared to protect him. What do you see in there?
The same issues we've seen the entire first month of the season offensively. They cannot protect the young quarterback. He's pressing. He's trying to make things happen, but it's been a long first quarter of the season for Cam Ward. Offensive line, atrocious. You're talking about an offense that can't run, can't open up running lanes for running backs. They can't give the quarterback enough time to go through his progressions. And the offense is just abysmal. And really, you have to put a lot of pressure on Brian Callahan. He got this job because of his coaching of who? Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. And he picked the quarterback they currently have. Remember who they had a year ago? Will Levis. It wasn't his guy. He inherited Will Levis. Well, you picked the guy in Cam Ward. And what we're seeing from Cam Ward is nothing in terms of developing and being able to progress to show all of us that he can be a quarterback for the future. I think he has a skill set, but they've done a horrible job in scheming ways for him to be comfortable, to go through his progressions, to be an accurate passer. And once again, Max Crosby, the rest of the defensive front from the Raiders, 6 sacks, and they missed another 4. It could have had 10 sacks on today.
You said it perfectly there. You think he has the skill set, but you're starting to have to squint to see it, Emery. How detrimental can this be for the development of Cam Ward?
It can be a big issue for Cam Ward in terms of this year and also moving forward. But like B-Mac said, he still has the skill set. And what I don't like is when you have a lot of coaches that get these jobs based on whom they were on the same team with. Like, hey, I coached Joe Burrow. You was on the staff where Joe Burrow was doing Joe Burrow things. Because if a great coach would find ways to make do with what he has in his disposal. You think about making the best of the situation with Will Levis. You get a guy that you handpicked in Cam Ward. When I look at this offense, I don't see an identity. I don't see any cohesiveness. I don't see any type of concepts to get your young quarterback any confidence. No easy button. Every route, it seems like it's long developing routes. And you know that doesn't jive well with an offensive line that can't protect. Everything should be quick, get the ball out of his hands quickly. Then you develop the running game. Now you help the offensive line out, and then you can work those longer developing routes. So it's a calamity of errors for the Tennessee Titans. The coaching staff is not helping out the offensive line, not helping out the quarterback. Thus, you're going to find Cam Ward having days like we saw today.
This is, and I say this with all respect, this is the least talented roster in the NFL. Okay, so we have to be clear about that. Yes, Brian Callahan picked Cam Ward. They had the number 1 overall pick. They needed a quarterback. Everyone would have taken Cam Ward number 1 overall in this year's draft. You go back to before the Texans game, and he was struggling because the guys in front of him were struggling. Then the Houston Texans game happens, and Cam Ward did not play well. You go back to last week against the Arizona Cardinals. That was the worst loss or the luckiest wins that we have seen so far in the NFL. He threw an interception near the goal line to effectively lose that game. If DeMarcado doesn't drop the ball at the end zone, he has lost that game. They had scored 3 touchdowns to that point all season long. And now in this game, Calvin Ridley goes out with a hamstring. Jeffrey Simmons is the only player that you would consider to be a top 100 player on this team in the entire NFL, and he was not voted in the top 100 this past year. And so I say all of that to say, what else do you expect? Yeah. And to your point about Brian Callahan, he has since given up play calling duties to Bo Hardegree. So while this is his offense, he's not calling the plays. If you were to fire Brian Callahan, and he may not make the season, if you were to fire him, what does this offense look like? He's the best offensive mind that you have on this team, and by firing him, you're going to make Bones Fossil, the special teams coach, the interim head coach, and you're still going to have the same play calling issues, the same injuries, the same lack of talent on this team for the next 10 games.
You did see Chicago a year ago cut bait on a first overall quarterback who was not insulated with what he needed to be at that point. We're not sitting here saying that is the eventual future for the Tennessee Titans, but amplifying all that they struggled with is they just got dominated, for lack of a better term, by a Vegas team that didn't play the cleanest game of football either. Geno Smith throws another interception, his 10th on the season. They run it for 2.3 per pop, 3.3 for Ashton Genty. Not the showing you're looking for. A win masks that, Mac, but where does the maturation need to start happening under Pete Carroll's group?
Well, number one, they miss Brock Bowers. He's the best playmaker on their team. He is the most important player on their team in terms of making things happen for the offense. That's number one. Number two, he's not in the lineup. Someone else has to step up. And to your point, Joe, they won this ball in an easy fashion, to say the least, but it wasn't easy when you watched the game. It was all about their defense. Their defense is what jump-started the efforts on the offensive end. For some reason, we're not seeing the smart, clean football from Geno Smith that we thought we would see based on what he's done in the most recent seasons. And they are not running the football well. Yes, Ashton and Genty got to the end zone, but to your point, the average per carry is not where we thought it would be as well.
3.3 today.
That's not winning football. But they were able to win because the team they played is the worst team in the National Football League in Tennessee Titans.
What did you see in that regression? Because we were looking at 6.3 yards per touch. Now, that does inflate due to some receptions for Genty over the last couple of weeks, but it was 2.8 yards per touch in his first 3 games. This situates under those first 3 performances. What do you attribute the up and down to?
Jeffrey Simmons. Like, him being right there in the middle of that defense makes things difficult because you can't combo block him because he splits those double teams, and he does a great job of blowing up your run game. What I like about what the Raiders did today, though, the attempts were there. The yards per carry may not have been there, but the attempts were there to where you had to respect it. The problem was you kept turning the ball over, and that's the one thing that they have to turn around quickly if they want to have success long term, because you saw some guys step up today, and who has been stepping up also. Trey Tucker, the receiver for the Raiders, did a great job today. You also saw, Genty tried to do what he could when he got the football, though it wasn't, the best of games. But when you look at the Raiders, it's really about, can they protect up front? Can the defense outside of Max Crosby create havoc like they did today? Find other guys. We saw Devin White have a resurgence today in how active he was around the football. So sometimes you may need your defense to win. Sometimes you may need your offense to win. But for the Raiders to win as a team, they got to stop turning the ball over.
JJ, there's plenty to figure out there in Las Vegas, but it starts and ends in the NFL with quarterback play. And when you consider what was given up monetarily and pick-wise to get Geno Smith into the building, are we hearing anything yet internally from Las Vegas, their pleasure or displeasure with the quarterback play thus far?
In fact, what I have heard, and I asked that question to a number of folks this past week, is that they have no interest in benching Geno Smith. Yes, the interceptions are there, but as what one source told me, what do you expect when he has a makeshift offensive line in front of him? We really haven't talked about how there are certain guys who are really kind of playing out of position, haven't really cross-trained over there with the Raiders, something that's really odd in a Pete Carroll-led team. You consider Brock Bowers being out. B-Mac, you talked about it. Obviously, the most important part of this offense outside of a quarterback in the National Football League. And then lastly, it's funny, like Jacoby Myers, I've seen him on a couple of, would the Raiders trade him? They need him. They need a wide receiver who can catch passes. Trey Tucker showed up, but, this has just been a difficult sled for Geno Smith and the Raiders. He has not played well, but there is no other option. They're not starting Kenny Pickett over Geno Smith. Cut down on the turnovers, get Brock Bowers healthy, get Genty running a little bit more. The offensive line has to get healthy and has to get better.
Learning within a win, it's always welcome as opposed to your other options here. Geno Smith got to clean it up, as is the case for a Titans team that has more than one thing to tend to. As for Geno, 10 times he's been picked off already through 6 weeks, the second most through 6 games in the last 10 seasons. More to come here on CBS Sports HQ. Highlights from Las Vegas, plus a couple thrillers going down in your evening window. Highlights and reaction all hour long here on HQ.